Welcome here, everybody. Excited for a new episode. We've got this, special guest, Otis McGregor, who's joining us today. He's a bourbon making inventor and a leadership expert. All About Tribe and Purpose is the name of his coaching consulting company. And he's going to be sharing all things leadership and purpose and how we can be better leaders and lead better leaders. How are you doing today, Otis?
I'm doing great, Derek, man. It's great to see you. It's been way too long, dude.
Yeah.
We got to do this a little bit more frequently. And I was just thinking, if you're really nice, I might share some bourbon secrets to you with you also.
Nice. Always up for some good bourbon, definitely. I often see your posts and you got a bit of bourbon and I think a cigar every now and then. And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just might do that after we record this show tonight.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So yeah, for our audience out here, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and the work you do with Tribe and Purpose?
Yeah, I grew up in Texas, went to Texas A&M. While there in the Corps Cadets, I enlisted in the National Guard. I was a tank driver. My tank was 5 years older than me, which is hard to believe. But I was a tank driver, and then I was a long range scout, and I got commissioned as an engineer. And I took my brand new, beautiful Texas bride with me to my first military duty station, Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And I can tell you, there is no better way to break into life in the military and being married than getting plopped way up north in Fairbanks, Alaska, all alone and unafraid. While there, I volunteered for SF, spent the rest of my career, 25 years total as a Green Beret, retired. And when I retired, I thought I'd just get a job. And what happened was that put me on a path that I refer to as wandering the job desert. I worked for 5 different companies in 7 years and had a consulting company and worked some odds and ends gigs. Each one of those companies, when they gave me the offer letter and I accepted it and I stepped into that company, I said, this is what I'm going to do for the next 20, 25 years, just like the military. Mm-hmm. And every one of those companies at about the 90-day mark, I started to go, oh, something ain't right here. It doesn't smell right, taste right, feel right. I don't like the people anymore, that whole thing. Yep. And I quit because fortunately I learned a great lesson that once you take the uniform off, you no longer have to go and worry about going to jail for being an AWOL, and you can quit companies when you don't like being there. So I did. And I did that with 5 different companies, all great companies, by the way. Absolutely. I love all of them. And I support them all wholeheartedly as often as I can. Mm-hmm. But they weren't the right fit for me. And what I did, my last job I had was actually created for me. This is how bad off I was, Derek. This job, a friend of mine owned the business, still owns the business, hired me, said, man, I want you on the team, Otis, but I don't know what to do. Give me a second to think about it. And he came up with his title, Chief Strategy Officer. It's like, that's perfect, man. I know all about strategy. I'm a strategic guy. I love doing that stuff. And that's how he hired me. He created the position for me. And in 90 days, I was just as miserable and frustrated in that position as I was in every other position. And as I mulled through that, it was summer, kind of bringing us to the present. It was summer about 6 years ago, sitting here in my home office, feeling sorry for myself, wondering what's wrong with me. How come I don't have this wonderful job that all my friends seem to have? There must be something wrong with me. And as I sat here feeling sorry for myself, I started to reflect on life since leaving the Army. And I realized that only 2 things have been consistent since leaving the Army. Number 1, family. Still married my beautiful Texas bride. Consider that a blessing. I'm lucky that she's put up with me all these years. And number 2 was boys high school rugby. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize this, but I had just finished my 7th year of coaching boys high school rugby, a club in a sport that I had never played. Something that our youngest son decided he wanted to play. And I started to kind of hang out. And next thing I know, become great friends with a Kiwi coach. He asked me to help out and become a coach. And I'm like, I don't know anything. He said, I'll show you. Teaches me how to do it. And then next year come around, he asked me to take over the club. And that summer I was sitting here in my home office feeling sorry for myself. I was like, why had I been spending an extra 40 hours a week of my time in a volunteer position in a sport I had never played and didn't even know anything about until I started coaching it. And as I did that, I took that experience and I broke it into my 3 main components. Number 1, the game of rugby, World Cup right now. Man, go Scotland. Tough match coming up, not this weekend, but the 8th of October, depending on when the show's coming out, Scotland versus Ireland. But that was number 1, the game of rugby. Number 2 was the boys. Because it was a club sport and I was the head coach, our house became the clubhouse, which meant my wife and I had 35 extra sons in and out of the house. Loved it. She and I both did. But I realized that the third part was what was really fueling me to do it. And that was being their coach, teaching, mentoring, and guiding them. Realized that's the main effort. That was the thing that was really keeping me going. going, I started to explore what that meant with other people in my network. And I learned about this thing called executive coaching and leadership coaching. That's when I took my then business development consulting business and pivoted it into an executive coaching business and created Tribe and Purpose. And that's what we've been doing. We call it Tribe and Purpose because we work with business leaders to help them get clarity in their purpose and build a tribe around their purpose so that each and every one of them in that tribe can have more success.
That's beautiful, for sure. And tribe, purpose, leadership, it's all so fundamental. It's the bedrock that you build a business, build a life from, right? So getting that right is primary to everything else, pretty much. So with purpose, can you go into that a little bit more in depth? You hear it a lot that, got to find my purpose, or what's my purpose? People often, you mentioned desert before, but struggle around, trying to figure out, like, especially when you see some people who are so driven and purpose driven, and it's like, what's my thing, so can you speak a bit to that of finding a purpose and what that kind of means for somebody?
Of course. So first off, everybody has a purpose. I truly believe that. Some people just decide to really grab onto their purpose and follow it. Now, what is purpose? Purpose is the fuel. It's the thing that helps drive you to achieve what you want to achieve. The way I look at it is purpose is never achieved. It's only fulfilled. It's the coffee cup that runs over, but never spills. There's always room for more. It is your purpose. When you truly understand your purpose, it is the thing that makes you get up and take action each and every day. It is that intrinsic value within you that helps you, drive you to understand what you need to do today to fulfill your purpose, not achieve it. You fulfill your purpose. And I'll share with you my statement, and this will help explain a little bit about where purpose fits into your life. So we should all strive to live our life with intention in pursuit of our purpose to achieve our success. So if you hear that live with intention, that means do what you want to do when you want to do it. Control your most precious asset, your time. Spend time doing things you want to do with people you want to do them with. That is the most important thing to do. And then while you're doing that in your own space, at your own choosing, in your own time, you're in control, you're fulfilling your purpose. And by the way, if your purpose doesn't involve other people, that's not really a purpose. You're being narcissistic and selfish. If your purpose isn't about how do I help somebody else do something else, become something else, be something else, then it's not really a purpose in my book. Everybody's purpose should be tied back to humankind. And then finally, achieve your success. If you don't define what success is for you, how can you ever be happy? How can you ever succeed? How do you ever know what's right? How do you make choices? If I don't know what success is, how do I decide? How do I decide if I'm going to Culver's or Wendy's if I don't know what success is? Because maybe the third choice is I don't do either and I eat a nice healthy dinner or a healthy lunch instead of eating fast food. Or maybe I earned it because I've worked my butt off and I want to reward myself.
Great points there. And I think the doing it for other people and the fulfillment aspect really interrelate, where especially as business owners, high achievers, we have that achievement mindset of, when I get here, when I get this much revenue, when I get my business operating like this, then I'll be fulfilled, then I'll be happy, this and that. But it's really the purpose is the thing, and tying that purpose to how you're going to help other people is where that true fulfillment comes into place, not fulfillment through just achievement or, bettering yourself, status or whatever.
Yeah, you hear stories about it all the time. Very successful business person, actor, people that have tons of money, and you're like, how are they not happy? How are they addicted to drugs? Why did they commit suicide? They should be happy. They're not, because they've never understood what their purpose is. Or even worse, like you mentioned, they get wrapped around the axle and they look at their bank account as their purpose, and that's success.
Yeah.
You can never be satisfied if your purpose is tied to your financial gain. I'm here to tell you again, that ain't a purpose.
Definitely. Great point. So a big part of leadership, moving on to leadership here, is communicating your vision with your team, especially as a company owner. As we grow, we generally have more people we're responsible for. We're managing more people. And as a successful business owner, you've got a vision and an idea of what the company is going to look like. like in the future, but how do you instill some of that vision or purpose for employees and kind of get their buy-in to the whole, big picture?
Yeah, well, that's a great point, because a lot of people forget that. They'll create a vision, they'll make graphics, infographics, and they'll put it up on the board, and they'll hang it put it on the shelf in this golden notebook up on the shelf and things like that. And they never talk to their team about it. They never go down to their team and sell it, because that's what you're doing. As a leader, you're selling your idea to your team. You are a salesman selling your vision to your team to convince them that your vision is something they want to partake in. And truly, what you want is you want your team members to see themselves in the vision. You want them to have an understanding of what their purpose is and what their life success is. And you want them to see their success tied to your vision for the company. And unless they see that, and unless they buy into that, they are there just marking time until somebody offers them 50 cents an hour more, and then they're going to jump. If you get them to start to see and understand how they fit in, how they're a contributing factor, and they see themselves in your vision for the company, your vision of success for this company, they see how they fit into that piece. A great story I heard a long time ago is about the janitor in the hospital. And you're thinking, well, how does a janitor see himself in the fact of a hospital? And what does a hospital do? It helps people get better, right? Get better so they can go home and be at home with their family. The janitor, his part of it was to keep the place clean so they don't get infected, so they don't get sick, so they can get better quicker, so they can get home quicker and spend time with their family. That's how the janitor saw himself as a contributor to the vision of the organization.
Yeah, so true. As well as keeping the staff, free of infection and clean as well, right? So they can do their part. And I was actually in the hospital last week. I fractured my rib, unfortunately. So I know the importance of having a clean hospital, and I was actually pretty close with how clean the hospital was. So, but yeah, having that tie in, I think is really important. And the difference between someone enjoying their work and not enjoying their work, like you said, and just, clocking time, as opposed to someone actually being there and knowing their place and how they contribute to the organization as a whole. Very important. As far as more of a tactical side of things, how would you do a team meeting, or how would you inside the company, how would you have that vision expressed, or how often would you want to be talking about that with employees? What's the best mode to be able to do that?
Well, that's simple. It depends. Okay. So,
Yeah.
So, me personally, in the size company that Tribe and Purpose is, it's kind of ingrained into our team. It flows throughout the conversation of where we're going, what we want to achieve and do. In a larger organization, more complicated organization, you're not going to take that much time that frequently. Now, one of the things that you can do is make your vision part of your operation, your normal recurring operations meetings. And what I mean is, here's the status update, and how do these pieces contribute to us achieving the vision for the organization? What's our vision? How do they contribute to it? And what's the progress? I flash back to, old military operations stuff and doing the stoplight chart. I can remember just grinding that out and just gritting my teeth about that. There's so much value in having a stoplight chart for the leadership, because you can check it so quick. Green, 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 yellow. Okay, why is that yellow? Is that yellow trending up, yellow trending down? Red. Oh, all right. What do we need to do to fix that red? And these are that quick little check right there. You don't solve it in the meeting, but you identify it so that it can be solved after the meeting. And those little things, you can arrange those bullets, if you will, the stoplight chart bullets, for how you're progressing towards achieving that vision. And then one of the things that I do, and I recommend my clients to do, is it depends on your company, but once or twice a year, you go and you deep dive into it. You deep dive and say, all right, had a lot of changes. We're going this way in here, we're going this way in there. And what do we need to adjust? How do we need to shift it? How close, is our vision still the same? Because as we walk towards here's another Army lesson for you in leadership. It was part of the troop leading procedures. So troop leading procedures, I think there was 12 of them. I won't even try to go that far. But the point of this is, it starts off with receive the mission. Okay, so what do I have to do? Then once I receive the mission, I turn around and I say, I give everybody an idea idea of what we're going to do, prepare for what we're going to do. And then step 3 is we begin movement. And that's an interesting thing because we're not waiting until the plan is done to start moving to what we need to accomplish. We get an idea of what we're doing. We start to put that plan together. We put the basics of that plan together and we start to move towards it, because when we move towards it, what do we get? We get more information. We get more data. We get more information. We start to understand. So we get clarity in what it is we're trying to achieve. That's part of what you're doing. So as you're moving towards your vision, what my vision is today, I have this great clarity for today. In 6 months, there may be some massive changes in my company. I may have already achieved this 5-year vision in 6 months, or I might have gotten introduced to something completely different that we're going after now. So you need to look at it, you need to focus on it and go towards it, but don't be tied to it as things come in. If things change, right? There's change happens all the time. And you know what? It might be a little tweak here or there. You know, if we're thinking about using a compass and a direction and an azimuth, you might adjust the azimuth a couple of degrees. Sometimes something big happens, like you get one of those offers from another company to buy your company. I can't ignore that. That's a $30 million buyout for a company that has, 5 million in EBITDA or something like that. It's like, oh, let me see here. I'm going to, right? That's a change that you weren't expecting along the way. So keeping track of those things, focusing on what you want to achieve, but continuing to adjust and refine it as you go along.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Things changing over time, and it kind of being like the guiding light, but yeah, you have to adjust for, stuff that comes up and everything. So for sure, expressing that vision to a team, I think that comes with just improving your leadership abilities and getting to what you said before. Sometimes you got to start moving forward in order to get clarity. Is you sometimes just need to get started with, communicating to your team, and you'll kind of maybe fumble a bit here or there, but you'll figure it out and find out what works best to get everybody sort of aligned, and also help you with finding the people that maybe aren't aligned with that vision, so you can transition them possibly out, or it helps bring everybody together, the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, to use
You're so nice, Derek.
that analogy. Yeah. Transition out. Yeah. I'm it's like my HR there, right?
There you go. Don't ask me. Don't
fired,
ask me
kicked out. Yeah. Whatever you want to call it. So moving on with some more leadership here. I mean, it's a huge factor in success. And as I grow as, a person and just even as a coach and business owner, I really see leadership, like the business owner is often the bottleneck, the determining factor of, how high a organization or company can rise. And generally their leadership ability is directly tied to that. What are some tips or some direction of how we could become, better leaders of our organization and lead a company, better at a higher level, essentially?
I'll tell you, one of my foundational principles is trust. And the way I define trust in leadership is, I call it the trust triad. And the trust triad, there you go, engineer. You ready for this construction? It's a triangle, right? Trust triad. Yep. You're getting excited. Yeah. So here's where it starts. As a leader, you got to trust yourself. You got to believe that the decisions that you make are the best decisions that you can make in the moment that you make them, with the information that you have in the time that you make the decision. Because we can always second guess it, right? What happens, right? We get more data. We collect more information and we can say, But when we make that decision, we have to trust and believe in ourselves that we are making the right decision in that moment. That's leg number 1 of the triad. Leg number 2 of the triad is I have to trust my team. I have to trust my team to do the job I hired them to do. If I don't trust them to do the job I hired them to do, why am I paying them? Like you said, we'll transition them out. But really, seriously, all seriousness, why are they there? Why are you paying them? If you don't trust that person to do their job and you're micromanaging, you're over supervising, you're down in their job, doing their job, you can ask yourself 2 questions. 1, why is that person there if you don't trust them? And 2, who's doing your job while you're doing their job? Think about that. So trust your team to perform their job. When those 2 are in place, those 2 pieces of the triad, the final leg of the triad comes together, and that's the team trusts you. They trust you to do the best for the team, not them, not yourself, the team. They trust and believe that every decision you make is for the betterment and success of the organization, not to get a bigger bonus, not to get a promotion, for the organization. So review it real quick. Trust yourself, trust your team, and your team trusts you. That's the trust triad of leadership. And that is a foundational principle. If you're successful with that, it's going to stop you and your team from being successful.
Yeah. I love that concept, and simply a profound, definitely. And yeah, trust, I mean, it is the name of the game as far as, what really strong organizations and teams and tribes are built on. When you have that high trust type of relationships, it really opens, opportunities to work with people, and, they've got your back and you've got their back, and you don't have to do a lot of the, second guessing or what have you with less, trusting type of relationship. So thanks for sharing that. Now, so that's leadership for, us personally in our organizations. Of course, a big part of being a leader is helping others to lead and enabling them and giving them that space, as you said, to not be doing their job and looking over their shoulder every 2 minutes but enabling, your managers, maybe your business partners. What's your advice for enabling and coaching other leaders, other people in the company?
Well, you got to make sure they understand what you want them to do. And I learned this as a rugby coach. Interestingly enough, I didn't learn it in the Army. I learned it as a rugby coach. As I'd show the boys a drill that we were going to do. And then I'd go, all right, everybody got it? And what do you think? How many boys you think raise their hand and say, hey, coach, could you show us again? And then we'd go to do the drill and they'd be all messed up. And I'd be like, oh, come on, you said you got it.
Yeah.
The secret to this is you ask the question that you would ask if you were on their side. Flip the role. You ask them that question. So they make sure that they understand what's their responsibility. What is it that you want them to accomplish? Why do they want to accomplish? Why do you want them to accomplish it? That's what you have to do. You have to do that, because if you say, hey, does everybody understand? Nobody's going to raise their hand, because nobody wants to be the one guy that goes, oh, I didn't get that last port, because everybody goes, oh man, you're making the meeting go too long. No, you flip it and you ask them. So if this happens and that happens, what are you going to do, Joe? Oh, well, I'm going to right? Oh, well, no, Joe, in that case, I want you to do it this way. Oh, okay. You see, and that's how you start to set them up for success. You give them the authority. The other piece of it is, I like to put it into 4 pieces, 4 key components. You got to have the plan. You have to have a plan for what you're going to do, what you're going to accomplish, whether it's a business plan that has an infinite goal or it's a project plan. But everybody's got to understand the plan and know where they fit into the plan. Then you got to establish thresholds. And all a threshold is meaning you get the decision authority to do up to this point. And you get to that point and you still need to go beyond it, you need to call me. I always use a purchase card as an example. You can spend $99.99 US. And if it's $100, then you need to call me to get approval for spending $100 or more. Then the next one is left and right limits. And what left and right limits does is they establish the direction that we're going. They don't tell you how to do it, how to get there, but you got to do it in this space. So it gives them freedom of maneuver. I have freedom to maneuver forward and freedom to maneuver left and right in this area. So I establish those. And then finally, because those 2 are limits, the thresholds and the left and right limit, what's the communication plan? What do you do when you hit a threshold? What do you do if you need to go outside the left or right limit? How do you get a hold of me to get the decision approval? Am I the bottleneck that's going to keep things from moving forward? Am I the one that all the papers are going to stack up on my desk waiting for me to review them because the threshold I set is way too low or it doesn't exist, as you can't do anything unless I approve it. And now I become the bottleneck. So we have to set these standards out, and back to trust again, right? Got to have trust in all those things. We set these standards out and we allow our leaders, our team to perform, allow them to perform their job. And we provide them feedback on how they are performing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I like the essentially communicating, those thresholds and the directions that you'd like them to perform in, but giving them the freedom to kind of figure stuff out for themselves and choose what's right for them. Because as everybody knows, there's no 2 people that do the same thing the same way. Even if you got the best process in the world, everyone's everyone's got, does things a little differently. And that's a good thing. I mean, they find different solutions and think of things that you probably wouldn't have as the business owner, and with your different focus there. Just picking from that, how would you, as a leader, it's not always gravy, obviously, and there's people that mess up or things go wrong or sideways, or how would you approach that with a team member who's made a mistake or done something detrimental to the company?
Well, first thing, you got to identify it, right? And then you have to address it. That's part of the communication. It's also part of the trust, right? Well, ideally, the ideal situation is that individual realizes they made a mistake and they come to you, they raise their hand and say, hey, I screwed this up. That's the ideal situation. Now, they may not be trained well enough to do the job. So you as a leader, part of your job as a leader is not only to tell the individual what is expected of them and how they are to perform, but is to give them the training to perform that. It's also to give them the resources they need. If you want somebody to type up a report and do that daily, and you don't provide them some means of typing it up, a computer, a typewriter, whatever, if you don't provide them means, how do you expect them to be successful? If they're in a leadership role and they've never been in a leadership role, how do you expect them to be successful? Shouldn't you train them? If you take somebody who's been working on the left-handed bolts all day long for his entire career, and you flip him over to the other side of the assembly line, and now he's doing right-handed bolts, what kind of training are you giving him, right? Are you preparing him for success? Are you giving him the tools and processes for success? Or are you just kicking them off the dock into the lake and expecting them to learn how to swim? Which way? I mean, there's been a lot of people that have learned how to swim that way. It ain't pleasant.
Yeah.
It ain't pleasant. But, if you want your business to be successful and continue to be successful, you need to take care of your people. You need to set your people, your team, your subordinates, the members of your organization up for success by telling them what's expected of them, training them so they can perform that to the best of their ability, and giving them all the resources they need to be successful.
Well put. Yeah. Essentially, I mean, the buck stops with you as the business owner, the leader, and are ultimately accountable for everybody that comes into the business and how they function and operate. So very well said. Thanks so much, Otis, for coming on. If people want to learn more about you and your work and get connected with you, or helping them with leadership or building their tribe or all the great things you do, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So our website is tribe-purpose.com, and there's a get started button in the top right hand corner. You click that button, you sign up for our Monday Moments newsletter. Our Monday Moments newsletter comes out on Mondays. Yep. And it is a summation of what I learned this week for you to kick off next week, so that you can have more success and fulfillment in your life, learning from my lessons and my thoughts this week. So that's tribe-purpose.com. Click the get started button and sign up for a Monday Moments newsletter.
Awesome. We'll put a link in the description here so you can, just go click on that and go through and get started. Nice and easy. So thanks again, Otis. Great to have you on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.